Well, welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'm excited that you are joining us today. We believe that healthy communication is oxygen for our relationships and leadership. So whether you communicate one-on-one, on a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, our communication matters. It is our currency for our leadership. And if used correctly, we will become effective, empathetic, and captivating communicators. This podcast exists to challenge you, to inspire you, to encourage you to communicate in a healthy way. And when you do, your world really will change for the better. Well, today we start a brand new series on the Speak with People podcast called Speak with Your Family. Communicating in healthy ways with your family will bring an incredible peace to your life. If your communication is off at home, it will greatly affect your communication at work. And so when you first focus on communicating with your family, it will ultimately produce a greater level of work productivity or work-life balance. And when your home life is healthy, everything else will improve from there. So today's podcast for week 1 of this incredible series, we are diving into the topic of marriage. Marriage is amazing, but it's also extremely difficult. In the beginning, we're trying to get to know each other. We're trying to figure each other out. We're trying to figure out how to communicate, and then the distance creeps in. And the reality is we have to communicate in our marriages. If you don't, you could lose your marriage. Well, today I have the privilege of interviewing 2 of my best friends, heroes, idols, best encouragers I've ever had in my life. And so welcome Bob and Shelley Raitz to the Speak with People podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Good to be here.
Well, hey, I know a lot about you, and I know some of our listeners do, but why don't you guys share a little bit about your story, just to give our listeners a little bit more into your life and history, and maybe a glimpse of why we're talking to you about marriage.
Well, we've been married, be 49 years, June 1st.
49 years.
49 years. We've known each other 50 years. It seems like a second. We had our ups and downs. By the grace of God, we're still together.
We met at 17.
17, yeah.
Married at 19. Mm-hmm. Almost divorced at 28.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we're still married today. We're very happy to be. Happy
Yes,
to have survived.
very happy.
Happy to have survived the
Very happy.
early years.
Yeah, right. Which it was challenging, but I wouldn't change a thing.
I agree.
It made us who we are.
Absolutely. 49 years.
49 years.
That's incredible. Okay, so when you go, let's go back in time, way back in time, 49 years, if my math is correctly, that's sometime in the 70s. Your first year of marriage.
Good math.
Good
yeah.
math. Your first year of marriage. Let's go back to try to remember your communication with each other that first year of marriage. What was it like?
Well, this is what we both brought. The only example we had of communication skills between a husband and a wife was obviously our parents.
Yeah.
So I brought mine in, and Shelley brought hers in, and both sides were a little dysfunctional. So we just expected that to work in the dynamic of the marriage, and it really didn't.
It was dysfunctional, I think. Early on, I expected Bob to know what I was thinking. He barely knew what he was thinking. And I barely knew what I was thinking. And so it was difficult. I didn't know my expectations
Right.
of myself, of our marriage, and we didn't even know what we didn't know.
Right. Well said.
Let's drill into the dysfunction a little bit from each what you grew up witnessing. So Mom, what was the communication like between your parents that you saw how they interacted?
Oh, Jason. So that I was raised in an alcoholic home. My dad, it was a home full of domestic violence and alcohol. My mom had serious problems because of it. We lived in downtown Detroit in poverty, and you could legitimately say life was half crazy, especially on the weekends, Friday night to Sunday night. My mom would go to the local bar on every Sunday night at 7:00 and sit in the phone booth, and I would sit at her feet, and she would cry. She would beg her mother to let her come home. Wow. And my grandmother said, "You made your bed, now lie in it." And then we would walk back home and she would cry all the way. She was very, very sad for her. By the time my dad died, they were married 25 years. At about year 18, he quit drinking. He went to AA, cleaned
Wow.
himself up. So for the last few years of his life, he worked the AA program. It worked very well for him. They had a good marriage. They did some fun things, and then his health was bad. They were older parents to start with, and so what I saw very young was an unsafe home, no communication, other than maybe yelling, and it was just a difficult upbringing.
So for our younger listeners, you may have heard something that was different. So your mom had to go to a restaurant bar to use the phone.
In a big phone booth with a door on it.
Yes.
So you didn't have a phone at home then?
No, we didn't have a phone until I was 11.
Wow.
Now, I'm not ancient of days.
Wow.
But that was typical of the time.
Did
Yes.
you have a wheel outside that turned with a little
No,
little
no.
waterfall,
But
kept the electricity going?
No, and the phone in the bar, Jaeger's bar, the phone in the bar, you would have to keep putting money in because it was long distance. So every so many minutes they would ask for more coin, please.
Wow. Okay, so Dad, the communication with your parents when you were a kid.
Well, their marriage started a little rough. My grandfather, who I never met, he actually died on their wedding day. So they kind of started on a little bit of a downturn, and the communication. I'm sure they communicated positively at some point, but I just remember the yelling and. Not that there wasn't good times, but that's what I remember. And then plus my grandmother lived with us 6 months, and then lived with my dad's brother the other 6 months. So she was always in and out of our lives. And my mom didn't really care for her a whole lot. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah.
But so that's what I remember.
Wow.
She told me once that she would take you in the bedroom closet.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Sit on the floor. Yeah.
And just rock and stay away from the
Yep.
mother-in-law.
Yep.
Wow. So going back to then the first couple years of your marriage then, when did you start to realize there was a breakdown in the communication?
Between us?
Yeah, between you guys.
Oh, kind of pretty immediate. Not in my ignorance of it. I mean, I'm sure Shelley realized it. I didn't, because, you move on with life. You think you're right. You're right. And I was actually kind of, I would say selfish, because, I started drinking at a young age from the people I hung around with. And then I got into construction, and those guys were all single. So we'd work our 10, 12-hour days and then go and party all night. And the drugs came in at that point. That's where we were introduced to it. And I thought life was great, and I never thought about the other side.
Yeah.
The home life, which was selfish.
Right. Right.
Well, we were just kids. So
Yeah.
how could
Yeah.
how could we know anything? Although we really did, at least I did, thought we knew
Right.
everything. But so just let me tell you though, I loved your dad from the minute I saw him, from the moment I met him. So I loved his style. I loved that he was quiet. I loved that he was purposeful. I could feel the empathy and the caring that was underneath, although it took a few years maybe to develop, and that we could.
Quite a few.
Right.
But hey,
But we liked many things about each other.
Yes. I liked her smile, her intelligence. She always obviously there was always conversation,
Yeah.
besides the obvious as a young man, with what they notice. But,
Not that big. No, I'm just
you
kidding.
can't
Stop.
this is
So you said,
she always made me feel comfortable
Yeah.
with the conversations.
Yeah.
Most conversations.
so Mom, you said at 28, nearing divorce, like what were some of the major things that led to that, or almost contributed to that possible divorce?
Well, the alcohol, because I had sworn as a child, which is pretty typical actually of people that are raised in alcoholic homes, to say I'll never marry an alcoholic. I'll never be an alcoholic. However, he was drinking the night I met him. So that's
Yeah.
kind of an
Yeah.
irony there. But I think within the first 5 years, we were on the road to divorce.
Sure.
It was, I had you and your brother, so I had two little guys, and I knew I couldn't bring my children up in the way that it was going.
Yeah.
And so by the ninth year of marriage, I was pretty done. Honestly, I think your dad wanted to carry on. He was having a good time, but I was not having a good time.
Right.
And I wasn't innocent either in all of this, so we were on the road to divorce, and I didn't see how anything would stop it.
Yeah. So at that point, did like your communication totally break down between you two, or was
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty much gone. Yeah.
It was gone.
Yeah.
If they were talking, it was yelling, it was
Yeah.
screaming. We were,
Yeah. Or me, I was the silent one.
yeah.
You know, just go into yourself and it was like, okay, I don't need this.
Yeah. So what toll did that take on you individually?
I was confused, lonely, sad, heartbroken. I thought I would be married forever. I couldn't even make it to 10 years.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was mad, really mad that this was going this way. And it was like, how do we change it? How do we get out of this mess? How do we fix this? And it felt desolate, actually.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah, it really did.
desolate.
It was like, what's the point anymore? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same thing over and over again. You know.
What did you say about rehashing all the crap?
Oh yeah. We
Expecting a
did-
different outcome.
yeah, we did the same thing every day, expecting a different outcome, and it didn't happen. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's interesting how so many couples can get to this place when communication really is a simple.
It's huge.
It's a really simple process, but it's so incredibly important. And when it breaks down, the complexities of communication are incredible. And so
Absolutely.
Once it's broken down,
Absolutely.
how do you recover from that is just incredible. So I know a lot of people listening, they're in a place where they're trying to figure out, okay, how is our marriage is struggling? How do we, try to figure this out? We're not talking about it, so what ultimately saved you guys? So you did not get a divorce. You did not, end up with that decision. So what ultimately saved your marriage?
You gonna take this?
Go ahead.
I'll take part of it. You take part of it. Okay. So
Sounds
through
good.
praying friends, we literally were saved. So we began a faith relationship with Jesus, and our marriage was saved. Our relationships were saved. Our family began to follow a different path. We began to talk openly about what had brought us to this point. We were honest. We went through a lot of old junk in our lives and cleared out the cobwebs. And we were coming from a place of sadness and confusion
Yep.
to a place where literally it was
Within 2 weeks, it was like, okay, here's your fresh start.
starting over,
Yep.
actually, starting from the beginning after 9 years.
Yeah.
And I always felt that God showed us how to love each
Sure,
other, how
absolutely.
to love ourselves, how to communicate,
Yep.
and when to talk, when to be silent.
Yep. And it's still ongoing. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible to go from that place of almost being done to, like you talked about,
Yeah,
just a
it
new
was
fresh
just-
start.
it
which
was.
is incredible. Okay, so what advice would you give a married couple right now who maybe were in the same boat? They're heading towards divorce, less and less communication. They don't want to talk to each other. They're not talking about anything. When they do talk, it's arguing, it's boiling over, it's all those kind of things. So what advice would you guys give?
Okay, so I'll start. I'll start with this. So as a counselor, I would say, and I've in both settings, in Christian counseling and in non-Christian counseling settings, it's really applying 1 Corinthians 13:4. So let me just read that for a minute and take this in and think about it in terms of communication and in dealing with your spouse. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, it's not rude, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. So I've seen this work. I know it seems like a heavy duty calling. What do you mean? Putting somebody else's needs before mine? And it is a lifelong practice. Living it out doesn't just happen overnight. We got to practice it. We got to work at it. First, you get a realization of it. Then you start listening. what kind of words are you using? What is your spouse, how is your spouse reacting to what you're saying? Listen to their response. If you are eliciting anger, what's the point? If you, so begin to communicate your love, your trust, your patience, builds relationships. It says to the other person, I trust you with my thoughts. I trust you with my care. I trust you with my heart. I believe in you. It's a lifelong journey and practice.
Yep. Or at some point, you just got to shut up and listen.
And there you have the
We
difference.
have the difference.
We will
have the
quote
difference.
that.
Your dad and I.
Yeah,
But
it's just
the same point.
listen.
It's the same
Yeah.
Absolutely.
point. Yeah.
Listen before you respond all the time. Anyways,
How do you get to
immediately.
that place though? Especially because I mean, I have spent a lot of time over the years talking with people who are struggling in their marriage, and both men and women, and the men sometimes, they just get into this rut where they can't let the other, like, you got to listen to me. So how do you get
Right.
to that place where you just listen?
You have to consciously make that decision. You just do. You just like, okay, take a breath. Better to have peace than strife. As the older you get, you kind of go, oh man, do I really want to? I don't want to start an argument. I'd rather just have peace. So take a deep breath and listen,
Yeah.
and work off of that. Work that into the conversation, then, because anger doesn't get you anywhere.
Right.
Nothing good happens from it.
And I would say return to 1 Corinthians and apply the practice of putting others' needs first. Really listen to what
Yep.
your spouse is saying. Ask questions. Give grace always. Maybe take a break if you're in the middle of something heated. Come back later. Set a time. Okay, we're only going to touch this subject at this time.
Yeah.
We're only going to
Yeah,
sit at this
yeah.
table
Yes.
and talk to
Good
the subject.
stuff.
We're gonna work on it until I understand you and you understand me, and we have an agreement on the topic. So, and for people of faith, it's about prayer.
Yeah.
Putting the other needs first.
Why do we let so many things, though, become the thing? I mean, I think about, Tracy and I's early years, and just, if she vacuumed the wrong way, then I thought she should vacuum. It became the
Right,
thing,
right.
Or if I didn't put something away, it became the thing. Why do we let so many little things become the thing?
Well, that's what you got to realize. Okay, in the big scope of life, are the lines lining up on the carpet worth an argument, or is it like who really cares?
Right.
Is that going to ruin something or stop our communication, or why? And don't carry it with you, for crying out loud.
And I
You
would
know?
say, what does it represent? It represents the need to put yourself first. Does it represent, by saying, I want you to, you're not vacuuming, right? Because you're not doing it my way.
Right.
Okay, really? That's what's important. We do it your way. So talk about that. Like why is not the other way as important? And so I think it can be boiled into selfishness.
Or who is it more important to?
Exactly.
If it's more important for you to have the lines line up, then, I mean, I know Tracy. She'd probably go, okay.
Right.
Not a problem.
Why are we
Not a
making
problem.
this
It's not
Yeah,
worth it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know quite a few people my age and probably into their late 30s whose parents are now getting a divorce and have been through the divorce. They were married 35, 40 years, and then they just said, it's just easier, we're growing apart. So what kind of communication practices can you put into place, or some of your thoughts on if you've been married for a while and it does feel like, boy, this is really dried up, we don't really talk very much, or it gets to a place where you're like, I don't even know who my spouse is anymore.
Well, our communication doesn't dry up. I mean, I married a wordsmith. This lady loves words. I mean, have you seen the amount of books she has? And she always draws me into the conversation. It's pretty much that simple. She won't let me not engage. So I even when I want to draw back in, go sit outside, and, nope, come on, we're having this conversation. And so hopefully I've matured to that. Well, I think I have, to where, okay, let's have the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a conscious decision. It's what do you want? I mean, it's continually strengthening your relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what I choose.
Yeah.
So are you asking what advice we would give to people? Is that
Yeah.
the question?
Yeah. Someone who's been married 40 years who just are like, Should we throw in the towel?
I would say don't give up.
Yeah,
I would
don't
say
give up.
Choose grace.
Choose
your
grace.
marriage.
There's a reason you fell in love with each other. Remember that.
Look at what you have built together.
Yes.
Our children, our
Yes.
families. Just divorce. No matter how you spin it. No matter how our generation wanted to like really push it in. 70% of marriages are failing, and all of that information. Divorce destroys lives. It destroys relationships. It destroys finances. It causes untold pain and suffering.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
death,
Yep.
and it's difficult to come back from.
Yeah.
For people. And so always try again. Try harder. Concentrate on you. What are you doing wrong? Don't worry about your partner. What can you do to make things better?
Right. Right.
Wow. Yeah. Absolutely. You kind of hit on it, but how come almost after 50 years you can still find things to talk about? Like what?
Well, my notes say see prior answer. I married a wordsmith. But even though our interests have changed over the years, I mean, it doesn't mean we don't love each other or not interested in each other. I mean, do you really think, look at me, Jason, do you really think I love going to quilt shops? No, I don't, but I appreciate her love of it. I appreciate that she loves the colors and how it's put together. And all
I
the
enjoy
fabrics.
bowling now. When we do it.
Not so
But
much in the beginning
not,
years.
not so
You
much
were
in
on,
the
like,
beginning
what,
year.
3
Three
or 4
leagues,
leagues or
three leagues,
something?
yeah, a week. But yeah, so I take an interest. Now, do I help her quilt? But she'll ask me about my opinion of colors and stuff. But no, we'll go to the quilt shop. I'll do a walkthrough, go sit in the car and look at my phone. But at least I made it, and she understands that.
I do.
But I got to the point where I appreciated, okay, look at the quilt, Bob. So I'm looking at all the colors. I'm looking at how it's put together.
Okay.
And from someone who built furniture, it's
Yeah.
like,
And
okay,
I-
that's talent.
And I support that.
So,
and
so that's why, so
I give you patterns. You build things. I show you.
that's right.
I do.
Yes.
So
Pictures, yes. Yep. So,
I,
yeah.
I endorse the baseball games. I don't attend, but I endorse them.
Yeah.
I'm glad about them. And so I want to say that when I think about the last 50 years and how God took 2 messed up kids, we met at 17. We were almost 18, so then we thought we were really
We really knew
had
everything.
made it at 19.
Didn't know a thing.
We didn't know anything.
Yeah.
We didn't know about life. We didn't understand. We didn't know what questions to ask. We certainly had no idea the answers.
Yeah.
And he has given us this wonderful family with all these,
Yes.
all these wonderful
What a blessing.
people, great children, wonderful grandchildren. We've had sorrows, and we've had our share. Everyone does, but we've been able to. We stay together in it, and
Yep.
as you age, that being together from being young and aging, it matters.
Yeah.
Yep.
It didn't matter so much at 20 because honestly at 20, 65, which is younger than I am right now, but 68, which is really what I am, was so far away. It wasn't even
a thought.
It would be like a laugh. Yeah, haha, when we get old. And you turn around and you're there. So make the day matter.
Make it matter. Yeah.
Make the relationships matter. Say what you mean, but I would say what you mean kindly. Say what you mean in a way that communicates, that builds up the other person, that builds up their heart, that shows your heart for them. Because honestly, like what is it, for every negative, you have to have 5 positives to even counteract that. I meet with people every day that have been hurt by words of parents and spouse that it still lives in them.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we can apologize, and I fully endorse that. Please apologize. Admit
Yes.
that you need to start over. But even better, consider what you're going to say and the effect that it's going to have. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And we don't just dwell on the past or this or that, but we talk about the future. God promises us that our latter days will be better than the former, and that with long life He will satisfy us. So, and we go with that vein. That's
Yeah.
how we
Yeah, we talk. We do talk about the past. We like the same kind of music, and we've shared a lot of different culture changes over the last 50 years. We have a
Right,
lot to laugh
right.
about. Hey, did you see it? And some things to be sad about, but having done that together, gives us such a I don't know, a sense of camaraderie.
Yeah,
A sense
yeah.
of this is kind of fun in a room where nobody else will get the joke but your spouse.
Right,
It's
right,
fun.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I love it. Well, goodness, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. We could talk hours about, all the things that we just covered today.
Yes,
and
we could.
This is, a shorter podcast. But before we let you go, I thought we'd ask some rapid fire questions, let our listeners kind of get to know you, because I know your stories kind of piqued their interest. So we'll kind of keep this going. But what's right now your favorite thing currently to do together?
Mine, it's hanging out with her. It really is. Whatever.
We're thinking about traveling. We're just thinking about traveling, but we're thinking about it. I was thinking of taking up pickleball, and then there'll be the professional tour.
Yeah, right.
So
when
we'll have to
when
deal
she
with that.
gets it down, yes. We have pickleball in our future.
I would love to play pickleball. I just
I
can't
would
bend.
too.
Well, didn't I see something somewhere that you can get one for the home? I thought, well, we'll start there.
We'll
Okay.
start there,
All right.
and then we'll
A new thing for Friday night.
There you go. I love it. I love it. And that's, if you're listening, what my dad just referenced. Every Friday night, our family does dinner together, and it's become just a great family tradition. Okay, question number 2. What's your favorite movie?
Well, mine's The Natural.
Of course.
Mine's when Peggy Sue got married.
Of course.
And I think we like them because it's about the second chance.
They're both about the second
They're
chance.
both about the second chance.
She chooses to go back in time and come back to this time and be married to the same person and have the same family.
Yes,
She
yes.
chooses again, and I love that. And The Natural, how is that about a second chance?
He gets his second chance. As a young man, he was headed off to play professional baseball. He gets sidetracked a little bit, but in his 30s, he comes back and lives out his dream.
We love the second chance.
That's incredible.
Second chance.
What's the best part of your week?
Mine now, weekends. Starting with Friday night and then hanging out with Shelly all weekend.
I would say Friday night dinners with family, which was a great idea. People should really consider this, especially as your children and your grandchildren are getting older. Make your home open on Friday night. Have them bring the people that are with them, or that they stop by before their date. Be available after. It's a good way to connect, even when we're tired. It kind of forces us to not forget that we're in this big relationship with each other and that it matters.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's just incredible. Well, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. Thank you for kicking off this brand new series. So many marriages are struggling, and so much of it comes down to communication issues.
Yep.
And then especially for leaders, so many listeners listening here, their work life is so affected because their home life is so off.
Right.
And if they can just get the communication right with their
Right.
marriage,
Right.
it's just incredible. We dove into just a tiny little bit about this.
Yep.
In our show notes, we're going to put some resources. My mom, Shelly, is a counselor. I'm going to ask her to put together some resources if your marriage is struggling, some things to listen to, some books to read, and so you'll be able to have those to be able to do that. So thank you enough. I've told you a million times. I've said it online. I struck the parent lottery. I don't know how, so I appreciate it
thank
very
you,
much.
Jay.
So thank you very much. So thank you for being a part of the Speak with People.
It's been fun. Yeah. Remember, just don't give up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for being a part of the podcast and listening. Just want to make sure you remember a few things about Speak with People. How are you growing your personal communication skills, your public speaking, your leadership communication skills? I highly recommend coaching. A coach will give you the push that you need to, will help you figure out how to achieve the goals that you want to achieve and how to accelerate your growth. So look at speakwithpeople.com/coaching. Schedule your discovery call today. And then also, are you part of the Speak with People community? This is a Facebook group that's growing every single day. We encourage each other. We curate content. We give different ideas for healthy communication in your life and leadership. So just head to Facebook, type in Speak with People community group, and become a part. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast community. Every single like, download, review. It means the world. Thanks a ton for going to Apple and giving us a review. We appreciate it. Again, this podcast exists because our words really do matter, and healthy communication is oxygen for our relationships and our leadership. So whether you communicate one-on-one, on a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we hope that our time today challenged, inspired, and encouraged you to choose to communicate in healthy ways. We know your world will change for the better if you do. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you for week 2 when we dive into parenting. Thanks again.